Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede has had an extensive experience with philanthropy and has been a key player in Nigeria's finance sector. His contributions to various social issues, including healthcare in Nigeria and in Africa, is one reason his philanthropy is so unique. And now he's determined to win the fight to end extreme poverty in Africa by 2030. I had the pleasure of sitting down with a multifaceted entrepreneur to discuss his new journey.
Mr. Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining me today. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you for partnering with the Global Citizen Festival and bringing it to Nigeria. Now, how and why did you choose to partner with the festival?
Thank you, Oji, and thank you for your support during our forum.
My pleasure.
Now, I've been involved in philanthropy, if you like, corporate citizenship, as an employee, as a CEO, and as an investor, owner of businesses. I've also been involved in philanthropy as an individual. One thing that I've found over several years of trying to get Africa and Nigeria to do better on a number of human development indices, health, education, and so on, was that we didn't have as much involvement and activity as I wished we could have from Africans or Nigerians. Right. And I know that the capacity of a Nigerian to do great things in the field of development and in affecting progress for humanity is very strong. Because when you look at the health sector across the world, in North America and Europe, right, it's the Nigerians that are doing great things, So I mean, how come, people talk about us as either the part of the world where maternity mortality is at its worst, infant mortality is at its worst, yet the champions of addressing these things in other countries are Nigerians. Right. And when so I've always been pondering, how do we activate collective action amongst citizens in Nigeria in a way that citizens are not just thinking about philanthropy from the perspective that I must have lots of money to be able to do good, but they can bring their skill sets, they can bring their other resources, we can collaborate and so on, and then do great things, okay? And then when I got introduced to the global citizen movement and I began to examine it, I saw that connection, I saw that power. It has tremendous convening power. As I joke to the global citizen organization, I said, look, I've had several years of involvement in philanthropy, okay? And until the global citizen, even my children who know the global citizen movement and, and support it, didn't really take me seriously.
Oh, at what point was it that you were introduced to the Global Citizens Festival?
This was at the point when they decided that after the Mandela 100 concert or festival in South Africa, that, wait a minute, now we're getting proximate to Africa and we want to embark on this campaign that goes beyond corporate giving and multilateral giving in the US and Europe. We want to make an impact on Africa. When they said, okay, let's have Nigeria or Ghana host the centerpiece event to announce the global Go Live 2020 campaign to end poverty by 2030. And so there was this bidding process or competition, as to which country, Accra in Ghana or Lagos in Nigeria, would host the event. And that was when I was introduced to it. So first of all, my competitive instincts kicked in, which is that, let's take jollof rice apart. Nigeria must, host this thing, right. But beyond that, and in all seriousness, I knew that the Global Citizens is a really, really unique and powerful platform for convening, motivating collective action. And that is the thrust of my philanthropy now.
And that festival alone drove about
$7.2 billion.
$7.2 billion. So for the Nigerian commitment, what are you envisaging? What do you think that you would want to see for the Nigerian commitment?
Well, those competitive instincts come in again. And I'll say if South Africa did $7.2 billion in commitments, Nigeria must do more.
Okay, so when you say must do more, in terms of the actions or in terms of what are you excited about? Is it more of the pledge or more of the commitment?
Well, typically, you know, it takes finance to make things happen. Okay, so it's going to be, we shouldn't seek activation and forget that you need funds to get things done. Okay, all right, and there's nothing more frustrating than having citizens mobilize and come together, and when they're ready to do things, they can't because, you know, there's no, the financial empowerment to do it, you know, is lacking. But let me tell you what is different about our approach. Okay. And it's not even different only in the sense of global citizen or Nigeria. I think that we are coming up with a new policy framework that can work anywhere across Africa. Okay? And I think there's consistency even with the way the United Nations is beginning to think about development and the SDGs, okay? And this is the typical pathway, okay, that exists when you think about philanthropy around the SDGs is a non-market financial pathway that is dominated by multilateral institutions, foundations that can operate at scale, okay? And they do great work. But sadly, the funding is not enough. Right. So if that's the only pathway, it excludes other participants, okay, that could add significant value and impact on the SDGs. Right. So we've created 3 more pathways. Okay. One is a market-based pathway because impact financing, even the capital markets, are very viable ways, okay, through innovative financing methods such as blended finance, where you take market-based financing and market prices and blend it with philanthropic financing at subsidized prices, and you come out with a rate which then becomes affordable, for example. Right. You know, issuance of certain capital market instruments that give tax breaks, green bonds, and so on to finance things, okay, for example. So that's the market, okay? Then we have what I can call resource mobilization that's not necessarily financial, okay? And in that instance, you have companies that have skills, talent, technology that can be brought to bear, okay, to make outcomes and impacts really, really powerful. Okay. And then the final pathway is all around good governance. The truth of the matter is that a lot of the time, when you even get multilateral funding, right, you know, into initiatives to support African progress, right, when the capacity in government is not there, right, to implement, you have a lot of waste, okay? And so if we improve governance, it's possible that $1 spent that used to save 1 life could be $1 spent that saves 10 lives. Right. Okay? So those are the 4 pathways as opposed to the multilateral, traditional, you know, global philanthropy, big giver pathway. Right. And we think that when you link these 4 pathways with the 17 SDGs, you create multiple points of entry where if my focus is on gender, for example, all right, and what I bring to the table is skills, okay, that could assist women, okay, out of poverty. Now, there's likely to be the need to mobilize capital. So if we create these multiple pathways and cause the connection between various activists, whether big or small, okay, we can then have somebody with a great idea link up with this corporate that's looking for somebody with a great idea and so on, okay? And so that's the model.
So for the Global Citizens Festival in Nigeria, how much do you intend to raise, or what would a festival like this cost you?
So I'll just tell you that 50% of the cost is being met by Nigerian philanthropists. 50% of the cost is being met by the Global Citizen supporters, which are certainly large corporates and large foundations, you know, across the world.
Now, there are concerns about the pledge that was made in South Africa. Can you give us some specific details, or do you have any idea in terms of how much or where the pledge has gone to so far?
Well, the nature of Aig, the person, is that I think the characteristics or the things that I kind of stand for are accountability, transparency, an audit trail and so on. So first of all, I'm not going to engage or involve myself in anything where when you seek to know the numbers or you seek to know the impact, you can't determine that. Now, I can't guarantee that in everything I do, success will follow, but one thing is clear, anything I do, the numbers cannot lie. So from a personal conviction standpoint, I am sure that if I'm present, okay, whatever process I'm involved in is transparent and auditable. That's me, okay? But more importantly, I do know and I've seen actually a report that was issued by Global Citizen on South Africa. And that report is available, I guess, even online and so on. And you see, the more information people put out, okay, the more you can track them.
All right, perfect. So, I mean, the fact that we're here in Nigeria and that you've been so involved with the Nigerian economy, I'd like to ask you what you think about the Nigerian economy at this point.
I promised that I would focus so much on the SDGs and developments that I'm going to answer that the next time we do an interview.
I think that we have been facing a lot of issues, and the fact that we are here and we're doing this Global Citizens Festival, I'm not sure if we are able to pull that type of commitment the way that we did in South Africa. I know that a few Nigerians committed some pledge while they were in South Africa.
If you do the analysis of the giving in South Africa, okay, which I have done. Like I told you, I'm a very granular person when it comes to numbers. A significant percentage of the $7.2 billion in commitments is not South African, and it's not the South African government. And so what they were able to do was get multilaterals and foundations to scale up and increase amounts that typically they would, support South Africa with, and then get their own local, South African companies and wealthy South Africans to do things that they would not ordinarily do. And I did some analysis within South Africa of that $7.2 billion from corporate and, wealthy South Africans. I think they did well over $500 million. The Nigerian economy is not yet so bad that from the corporate world and wealthy individuals in Nigeria, that we won't beat that.
Okay, all right. Just a few questions about your passion for, the youth as well with your Africa Initiative for Governance program. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what that progress is?
I told you that one of the pathways is around good governance and the fact that with good governance, $1 spent can save 10 lives, whilst with bad governance, $1 spent may save no life. Okay? And so in my own life as a private sector operator, I realized that, yes, the private sector has made great progress, banking, telecoms, manufacturing, if you look at Aliko Dangote and so on. But we would have done phenomenally more if we had the right capacity in terms of public sector leadership. I then said to myself, then the X factor really is not about fund mobilization. The X factor is about getting public servants who have skill and capacity, as we used to have around the time when I was born. Okay. And after that, all other things will follow. And so the irony of it is that in this room, we are talking about the SDGs, and somebody asks a question. One thing that is missing is measurement of government performance. And if we had measurement systems, right, then we could hold them accountable and citizens. Now, one of the things that the Africa Initiative for Governance is doing, and in fact, actually, not connected with this process, but more connected with the good governance process, is we are going to come up with a measurement system by which ordinary citizens can assess the quality of goods and services coming from their governments. And that is really information and power in the hands of the people. So you can begin to see how my world of governance intersects with my world of development.
So to wrap up with the Global Citizens Festival, what do you really want Nigerians to take home with your message?
Together, we can come with our different skills, with our knowledge, our different resources for good.
Mr. Aigboje Aig-Imoukhuede, thank you so much for joining me on this program. You've been fantastic, and I wish you all the best with the Global Citizens Festival.
Thank you.
I like it, Genevieve. I think that she's so sweet. And